Very good morning to one and all. It's a pleasure to welcome you all for this international webinar series on Basic Sciences 2020. So, large number of participants are today added. So, we want to introduce about our college. Let's have some words about our college. Seshasai Institute of Technology, Tiruchirappalli, is an AICTE approved, government aided, autonomous, co-educational technical institution run by a registered society, Seshasai Educational Society, comprising of professionals and philanthropists with a view to uplift the techno-social status of all the vital stakeholders in the central region of Tamil Nadu through various three-year diploma programs at post-secondary level, post-diploma, and a variety of allied non-formal continuing education programs. It's conscientiously committed to the laudable theme of uplifting the economically weaker sections of the community in this region for enhancing their social status coupled with an enhanced lifestyle. Being solidly baked and nurtured by the benign management, it is solemnly wedded to the vibrant theme to total quality management in all aspects of educational management. With these few words, we feel privileged to extend our warm welcome to our resource person, Dr. Paramashivan Raja Singh, Assistant Professor of Chemistry, Chikanna Government Arts College, Tirupur. On behalf of our management, a respected principal, respected vice principal, and our head of engineering, and faculty members, we welcome you, sir. Now I'll hand over the question to Mr. Ganesan, lecturer, Department of Chemistry, to introduce about our resource person.
Good morning, sir. Welcome, sir.
Good morning.
It's my pleasant duty to introduce our resource person, Dr. Paramasivan Raja Singh, currently working as Assistant Professor, PG and Research Department of Chemistry, Chikanna Government Arts College, Tirupur. He completed his PhD degree in Chemistry, CSIR, NIIST, National Institute for Interdisciplinary Science and Technology, Trivandrum, Kerala, India. He past experience are Assistant Professor of Chemistry, Government Arts College, and Research Scientist, Arctic Pharmaceutical, Chennai, India, and Postdoctoral Fellow, Department of Chemistry, Weizmann Institute of Science, Israel. Research Associate, Dioxin Laboratory, NIIST, CSIR, Trivandrum, India, and Junior and Senior Research Fellow, Organic Chemistry Division, NIIST, CSIR, Trivandrum, India. He received many honors and awards as Tetrahedron Letters Most Cited Paper 2005 to 2008 award by Elsevier Limited, Oxford UK for his paper. As secondly, he passed CSIR UCT 1999 Junior Research Fellowship JRF and eligibility for lectureship National Eligibility Test NET and state level educational testing SLET 1999 eligibility test for lectureship conducted by Bharathasan University, Tamil Nadu, India. Date 2000. And he published 12 papers in international journals. National and international conference attended 10, is workshop and training attended is him 5. Lectures delivered is him 8. He is specialized in organic chemistry and currently teaching undergraduate, postgraduate students and guiding research scholars. Have hands-on experience of synthesizing highly functionalized molecule and oxacyclic compounds during doctoral research and 2 years of postdoctoral studies on selective bromination of perilene diimides. Next, sir. Sir, now we will hand over the session to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Vanakkam. Good morning to one and all. I have great pleasure this wonderful morning in welcoming you all to this international webinar series on basic sciences. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Ganesan, lecturer, Department of Chemistry, for his nice introduction. I would also like to thank the organizers, the principal of CESA Sai Institute of Technology, and the management for arranging such a wonderful lecture series. I'm glad to join you all today. Now let's get started. Why did I select this topic? Chemistry's impact on modern world. For sure, I know that the participants will be from different groups or fields. So I thought it will be a suitable topic to say something about chemistry, because many people don't like chemistry. When you go for studies after your schooling, when you join for college, mostly you will select among the science, physics or maths. It happened to me also. So I wanted to convey the participant that the chemistry is an incredibly fascinating field of study, because it is so fundamental to our world. So that's why I selected this topic, chemistry's impact on the modern world. So before going into the detail, I want to ask yourself why chemistry is important. Because this question might have asked for you, whether you are a student or a teacher or a scientist or a chemistry lover. So you might have faced this kind of questions. So why should you learn chemistry? Why should you understand the basic chemistry? The answer is very simple. You can answer very easily that because everything in the world is made from chemicals. But that's not only the answer. There are a lot more reasons why chemistry is a big part of daily life and why everyone should understand the basic chemistry. So if you ask yourself the question, probably you may get a variety of answers and reasons why the chemistry is so vital to our lives. First of all, we are all chemical beings. Okay. So in our body, almost 60 elements are there. So the first, you see in the slide, the first 6 elements: oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, calcium, phosphorus. So they are all the major percentage. So oxygen is 65%, carbon is 18.5%. You can see hydrogen 9.5, nitrogen 3.2, calcium 1.5, and phosphorus 1%. And the remaining potassium, sulfur, sodium, chlorine, magnesium, they occupy 0.85%. So other elements like trace elements are also there. So apart from that, when you breathe or when you're reading or when you eat, every time, everything, whatever you do in your life, day-to-day life, actually your experience in the chemistry, you are dealing with the chemistry. Not only that, if you select a science course, every course will begin with the chemistry. So without chemistry, you cannot even study other courses. So that's how the chemistry is taking part in our life and plays very important role. the last slide we have seen about some of the elements. Those elements are fundamental and essential for our life, as well as some of the organic compound also you can see in our body. So in this element we have seen about the nitrogen. So the nitrogen is the basic for forming some of the organic molecules, including amino acids and proteins. In the organic molecule, you can see that carbohydrate, lipids, proteins, and nucleotides, these are all essential for our human functioning. And you can see in our DNA and RNA the base pairs, the adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine, uracil. So these are
Building screen has come up.
It's come up. Okay, thank you. So as well as the basic elements, we can also see number of organic molecules. They are very essential for our human functioning.
Okay. So
even if you take the glucose molecule, so they are the fuel for our brain and spinal cord and so on. So even though our cells can break all the molecules, the sum of the parts like brain, they can only use glucose like molecules. Sir, can you?
Sir, yes, sir, your screen is visible.
Okay. So not only the elements and the organic molecules, the chemistry knowledge, whether you are a chemistry, studying chemistry or teaching chemistry, apart from that, if you have some knowledge in chemistry, so it will help you to identify some of the toxic or dangerous substances, or you can deal with your environment. Suppose you are going for a blood test, there they are handling with analytical chemistry. They do all kind of analytical chemistry in the laboratory. So they will give you some result so that you can interpret what kind of biological changes is going on in your body. So the chemistry knowledge is very important, whether you study or not. And also, as you've seen earlier, the chemistry elements are inside us and around us. It's a study of life. And another interesting thing is that it's a subject of logic. So if you study chemistry, you can think in a creative way and you can understand your environment very easily. And in day-to-day life, you can say chemistry is in use for 24/7. Some of the molecules you can see here, like fluoride, glycerol, sorbitol, calcium carbonate, sodium lauryl sulfate. These are all the chemicals you can see in your toothpaste. If you see the ingredients of the toothpaste, you can see these chemicals. See here, the sorbitol is used as a sweetener, and glycerol as a binding, and fluoride giving strength for your tooth, and the calcium carbonate, it's polishing your tooth. And the most important thing is the sodium lauryl sulfate. And some of the bases also you'll be using in your day-to-day life. Or in the case of soap, if you want solid soap, they'll be using sodium hydroxide. If you want liquid soap, then you can see the potassium hydroxide. If you want some kind of foamic kind of thing, then they will mix the both base. And when you eat something or we take food, so everything consists of chemicals. So even you're going for office, so when you put fuel for your vehicle, it's a organic molecule. Okay, so lot of things happening around you, it's all made up of chemicals. So as you see in the earlier slide, the sodium lauryl sulfate, you can call it as a everyday chemical because it is a content in shampoo, toothpaste, and even degreasers, so on. So in so many products, you can see this chemical as one of the ingredients, and it is acting as a foaming agent. Okay, so what are the product you are using if you come across the foaming character, and this is the chemical which is giving that particular activity, the foaming activity for this particular commodity. And not only that, you can also see a lot of polymers in your day-to-day life, and some of the polymers I have listed here, and you can see how the polymers are being used as a product. And polyethylene bottles and polypropylene, the chairs and some of the baskets, those are made use of polypropylene polymer, and the PVC, the polystyrene, which is being used for as food container, and you can see the polyethylene terephthalate bottles and polyurethane materials made up of polyurethane polymers. So you'll see about one monomer, this bisphenol A. It's a very important monomer. This monomer can be prepared from the phenol and acetone, and it is being used for the polymerization. You can get two kind of polymers out of this monomer, like polycarbonate and the epoxy resins. So the polycarbonates are like a transparent polymer. They are being used in the glasses, lens, wherever you want to have a transparent, very strong lens. You can use the polycarbonate material and the resins. These are some of the material or commodity you will come across in a day-to-day life. Here you can see the functional group. So those are the functional groups you can see in those molecules. Suppose if you take fruits, you can see the ester, and in the case of Teflon, you can see the alkene functional group, and the acetylene, you have the alkyne functional group, and the nitrate glows in the nitrile functional group. So these are all the functional group. So various functional group, different kind of materials will have different functional groups. So you can not only the basic needs, the chemistry fulfills your basic needs in your high-tech life also. Suppose if you take the space shuttle, there the fuel which is being used to lift the shuttle, in the you can see in the shuttle there are two type of tanks. Like the bottom of the shuttle, you can see very big tank. It's called the external tank, and also the booster, two pair of twin boosters. The twin boosters, they carry the solid propellant, and this big tank, the external tank, this is filled with liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. There, the liquid hydrogen is used as a fuel, and combined with oxygen, they lift off, they release the energy to lift off the shuttle. So here you can see the two kind of propellant. So one is liquid propellant, another is solid propellant. Liquid propellant is used in the form of compressed in the supercooled state, and the solid propellant, here you can see this aluminum as a fuel, which is when it's reacted with ammonium perchloride, that energy is used in the solid propellant. Okay, so the two kind of propellant. So here also you can see the chemistry, and if you take the chemistry, the chemicals, so there are some chemicals which are very basic, and they occupy, and from that you can derive or you can synthesize different chemicals out of those chemicals. So among those chemicals, the sulfuric acid, you can call it as a king of acid. It is produced worldwide like 200 million tons per year. The next, the ethylene, then propylene, then the base sodium hydroxide, then nitrogen. These are the 5 chemicals which are produced in tons per year. Okay. So the sulfuric acid is being used for different purposes. You can see that it's being used for the manufacture of fertilizers and manufacture of detergent, and it's being used as a pesticides, and it's also being used for synthetic fiber manufacture, and it can be used for cleaning the metals and in the paint industry and so on. So if you take the chemical industry, its contribution to the global GDP, its contribution is almost 5.7 trillion towards the GDP. So, and also the industry, chemical industry contribute not only the GDP, it offers a lot of jobs. So it's supporting like 120 million jobs worldwide. And it's equivalent to 7% of GDP. In the total GDP, it's almost 7% of GDP. If you take our Asia Pacific chemical industry, it is generating almost 45% of industry's total annual economic value, and it's supporting almost 69% of all jobs. The next is Europe. It is contributing 1.3 trillion US dollar towards the GDP and supporting with 19 million jobs. Then comes to the North America. They are offering the job almost 6 million per year. So if we take a chemistry, you can say the chemistry is a platform of science. So the fundamentals of modern chemistry actually laid in 18 and 19 and extended to the 20th century. The development of the theoretical framework for understanding and explaining the physical and chemical properties of atoms and molecules. At the same time, the developments and the invention of sophisticated instruments, they laid the way to study and influence the structure and behavior. So the contribution to the human advancements need to be seen in terms of its own core as a physical science and also as a platform science, like in the context of its relationship with its own group, like natural science, the other subject, physics and biology. So if you provide you have to study the basic chemistry in order to understand what's happening in the atomic and the molecular level in the other part of sciences. So you can take the smartphones. In the smartphone, we can see almost more than 40 elements are present in the smartphone. So in the wiring, you can see the copper element is being used for wiring, and also gold, silver also being used. And you can see the batteries. So they're made up of some of ions like lithium ion battery. The lithium is being used as, and you can also see the aluminum. And the glass is made up of silicon, aluminum. And you can see the chip is being made use of silicons. So silicon is used to the manufacture of the chips, and some non-conducting regions. There are other elements like antimony, arsenic. They are all used in these smartphones. So in the tin and lead are also used as a soldering agents for the electronic phones. And you can see a variety of rare earth elements are present in small quantities to produce colors in the smartphone screens. And you might all heard about the Gorilla Glass. So it's to protect your screen. The Gorilla Glass is being used. So here also the chemistry plays a role to strengthen the glass. It's nothing but the glass is dipped in the potassium ion bath, the molten potassium ion bath. There you dip your glass where you have silicon and sodium ions. The sodium ions are replaced by the potassium ion. So if you see compare the size, the potassium is it will be bigger than the sodium. So when the potassium replaces the sodium, it accommodates in the small space, and when you cool down, it creates some kind of stress and occupy that place. That is used for strengthening the glass. So here a kind of ion exchange chemist is being used to strengthen the glass, Gorilla Glass. So, and you can also use the polymer, or you can see the plastics in the car. So nowadays you can see the cars can be called as the plastic cars. The almost more than 50% of the parts are consumed by the plastics. So you can, for example, you can take the switches or the connectors which are connecting the switches and the light and their frames, or you can take the circuit board and you can see the airbags and the old battery and the interiors and some of the transparency, because all the cars you can see now they are signaling, they got to transmit the signals to the different gadgets, so it should be transparent. There are also the plastics being used, and even the chassis, there are also the polymers are used to make the cars. So almost every part of the cars are occupied by the plastics. They actually increase the efficiency of the car. They also decrease the weight of the car and thereby increasing the fuel efficiency, and also the comfortness you will feel in the case of interior, also and the other accessibility with the gadgets. So when you come to when you study about the organic, then it's carbon will plays very important role. So okay, it's organic chemistry. It's mainly based on the carbon chemistry. So carbon in its single entity and forms appears in various forms. It has been used in technology and also in the human life for many centuries. Since prehistoric period itself, we are using carbon, the graphite, charcoal, or the carbon black. We are using for writing and as well as for drawing purposes. So in the past 3 decades, the conjugated carbons, conjugated carbon materials like carbon nanotubes or fullerenes, they are being used as energy materials exclusively for their some exclusive properties. They have been used in different fields. So they have some outstanding chemical, mechanical, electrical, and chemical properties. Because of they have find application in many areas, including drug delivery, electronics, and composite materials, some sensors, and energy storage and delivery systems. These are some of the allotropy of carbons. You can see the graphite, diamond, graphene, and the single-walled carbon nanotubes, fullerenes, and multi-walled carbon nanotubes. So if you take, for example, I have taken the diamond. It has been used. It's being used as abrasive as well as in the jewelry. So nowadays, the diamond is made in laboratory itself in eco-friendly manner. Okay, actually, the cost of diamond is almost 40% less than the mined diamond. So you cannot differentiate. So nearly they are identical. You can't differentiate which is lab-made or which is natural one. So they have certain corners and structure and chemical compositions. So and because these characters and the very easiness, you can quickly make the diamonds. If you want to take the diamond from the earth, so it must be formed a million years back. But you can synthesize the diamond in the laboratory within 3 weeks. But it's a little bit costlier. But when you compare to this mined diamond, it's less costlier. Okay, so the diamond trade is boosting every year. You can say it's doubling every year. And then it comes to the carbon fiber. We can reimpose the strength of the carbon fiber by mixing with other materials. We can call it as a composites. Because they have their own properties like high stiffness, high tensile strength, low weight, high chemical resistance, high temperature tolerance. These are all the properties. They make the most popular one in civil engineering. And there, the weight wise, they are 5 times less than the steel. But the strength wise, they're 5 times more than the steel. And the weight wise, they are 1/3 of the steel. And you can call it as a supercure of the material today. So you can see in the divider or in the buildings, this kind of carbon fibers being used along with the concrete. We can say as a carbon fiber reinforced concrete. So, and also in the propeller, you can see the propeller fan, they are made up of the fibers. Because of their lightweight and the strength, they are being used. So they also increase this efficiency because of their less weight, and you can mold in different form so that you can use it for different purpose because of their strength. So the products that the chemical industry manufacturers change people's lives by providing clean water and making possible renewable energy sources, advanced medical care, stable and nutritious food supplies, recycling technologies, and more. So chemistry is supporting us and helping us in many ways. So in the case of R&D, the chemical companies has invested more than 10 billion in research and development. Okay, though the investment is more towards the innovation than the electronic, automobile, and healthcare industries. The business of chemistry excels at continuously bringing new, imaginative, and innovative ideas to the market. Tomorrow will be no different. So, as in the case of we are experiencing the pandemic situation, where the chemical or the pharma industry is looking for a suitable drug candidate to deal with this COVID-19 virus. So the remdesivir is one of the drug is being proposed, and the India is also being given the license. So the pharma companies using the reverse engineering, they are finding ways to synthesize the remdesivir drug. So there also you need the knowledge of chemistry. So simply you cannot do the synthesis of a drug, or you cannot say it is a drug which is being used for the particular diseases. There you need a lot of chemistry knowledge. And even for the synthesis, even if you're given a molecule and you are going for the synthesis from the starting material, then you need a knowledge about retrosynthesis. You should have a rich knowledge about the chemistry so that you break the bonds and you do the reverse engineering. Nowadays you have the softwares like Synthia. The computer itself do the retrosynthetic analysis so that you can arrive at your the most cheaper or most affordable starting material using your existing chemistry knowledge. For example, you can see here this remdesivir. You can use your chemistry and do backward synthesis. That means the retrosynthesis. You can arrive at the starting material. See the L-alanine you can use for the synthesis of part A, and the part B and C can be used to arrive at the other part of the remdesivir. So this is a forward synthesis. I'm not going to tell in detail how this is being. Just I'm telling to synthesize even a drug molecule or to analyze the synthetic methodology, you need a rich knowledge in the chemistry. So every part, as you have seen from the beginning, from the various fields. So if you take the renewable energy, so now the people are talking about using replacing the fossil fuels with the renewable energy. So biodiesel is one of the renewable energy. You can synthesize the biodiesels, or you can produce the biodiesels using the trans-esterification chemistry. So there, the oils of plants or animals, the fats from the animals, when you treat with methanol in presence of a base, the trans-esterification takes place, which converts the oil into the biodiesel. That means the methyl esters, and you will also get rid of the glycerol. So the methyl ester is called as biodiesel is here. So you can use the chemistry is being used even in the renewable energy source in the name of biodiesel productions. And you can see the country's economy, you can boost using the biodiesel. When you started to use the biodiesel, you can lessen the country's dependence on the imported oils. So you can produce your own energy, the renewable energy in the country using the raw materials which are present in this particular or in the concerned country. So you can, in that way you can boost the economy by creating jobs, and you can ultimately you are generating a tax revenue and increasing and the country's GDP. So here you can see the graph, the world biodiesel production and their capacity. You have a lot more capacity, so you can increase our biodiesel production. See, come to the another type of renewable energy, the solar energy. Here also, you can see that solar panels, they have been used for building the roads made use of the solar panels. Here in the France, in the 2018, they made this road using the solar panels. It's almost like 3 kilometers they made these panels. This is silicon-based solar cells. Okay, the silicon is being used as N-type and P-type materials in the solar cells. So you can also, it's a little bit costlier. So the people are looking for reduce the cost in the production of solar cells, and also the flexibility. So if you go for organic semiconductors instead of the inorganic silicon-based solar cells, so you can make the solar cells starting from the small molecule organic, using the small molecule organic, or you can use polymers, semiconducting polymers. You can do organic solar cells in different way, like dye-sensorized, or you can simple molecular organic solar cell, polymer based solar cells. The advantage with the organic solar cell is you can use it anywhere. So it's flexible. You can coat even any surface. You can even paint it. You can use as a paint this molecule, and use it can function as a energy harvesting material. So compared to the silicon, they are less expensive, but the demerits, the challenges is this: the efficiencies compared to inorganic solar cell is very less. So the mechanism is a little bit different. So here the problem is the separation of the excitons. So the researchers, they are spending their knowledge towards how to improve the efficiency using preparing different organic materials. This is some of the example how the organic solar cell can be made. You have to prepare different kind of acceptor and donor molecules, whether you can use as a small molecules, a separate acceptor or separate donor, or you can mix it as a bulk heterojunction solar cells, or you can use polymers. In the case of simple molecule, you can use small molecule, you can use polymer molecules. They can be used as like pull mechanism. There you have donating and accepting material in the polymer itself. So this is a mechanism. If you use, you can use both. We will be using for organic solar cell donor and acceptor molecule, where you have two kind of channels. Like the donor can harvest the energy. Yes, it may not all the molecule cannot harvest the energy from the sun. We are using the solar energy, so you cannot expect all the molecule to harvest the energy, the photons from the sun. Any one of you can use, you can tune the molecule, or you can prepare in such a way that whether the donor can harvest the energy, or the acceptor molecule can harvest the energy from the sun. So the two mechanisms: if the donor accepts the photons, then it excites the electron, then it transfers the electron to the acceptor, then it goes to the cathode. Suppose the acceptor gets excited using the photons from the sun, then the electron is transferred to the cathode, then the hole which is created in the acceptor is being transported to the donor, then it's to the anode. So one of the material which is being used in case of organic solar cell, particularly the N-type solar cell, the N-type material which is being used is the fullerenes. So because of their some of the characters, they are being used extensively. But the drawback is you cannot do much functionalization in the fullerene molecules. The functionalization is very limited because of their solubility. And another example for their replacement, one of the most used molecule, or you can say the perylene diamide, because of their some peculiar characters, they are being given much attention compared to the fullerene molecules. You can see here, you can easily prepare. It's less costlier than the fullerene. The other thing is you can easily prepare from the acinaptene. You are preparing the 1,8-naphthalene dicarboxylic anhydride. Then you are doing imidization. Then just simply coupling the two part of naphthalene units, you can prepare the perylene diamide. Then you can get back the anhydride out of the amide. Then you can use it for derivative of different perylene diamides. So in the perylene diamide, you can see that imide part, where the amine is attached between the two carbonyl, and the Bay region. These are the region will be used for functionalization, so that you can prepare the variety of perylene diamides, so that you can use it for different purposes. So the research, which is based on perylene diamide, has been used in different applications. They find different applications. You can some of them, like this material is being used in organic solar cell. It is being used as a semiconductor, and also like it is understood that it's light harvesting molecule, and it is being used as optoelectronic material in nanomaterial. It is also being used as a catalyst, and they have find some application in the DNA intercalation, and they are very good self-assembly molecule. And they are also used as organic light emitting diodes. So before their developments as a molecule which is found so many applications in the different fields, they are being used as a paint, or as a pigment. You can call it a pigment, and the paint industry. You can see here the pigment red 179. This is one of the pigment. It's based on perylene, which is mostly used in the automotive coatings. So you can see in the recent days, this is one of the example I given, the maroon color, which is from the perylene molecule. This pigment name is pigment red 179. So like this, lot of colors you can have from the perylene moiety. Why this perylene is so important is they are having some interesting properties, like thermally, photochemically, they are very stable. Chemically, and they are highly inert. And they are like N-type material, so they can accept the electron accepting character, strong accepting character, and their absorption, they harvest the light. Intensively they harvest light, and the quantum yield. If you see in this graph, you can see the emission spectra. The quantum yield is almost unite. So there is highly fluorescent molecule, and easy to functionalize. As you see, this is one of the advantage when you compare with the fullerene, which is being used currently as a N-type material. This one disadvantage with the fullerene is you cannot easily functionalize. But in the case of perylene diamide, you can functionalize easily. You can introduce different kind of functionality in different regions. One of the, I'm presenting one of my work I did in my postdoc studies. Yes, the people were struggling to functionalize the core perylene moiety. So it's not easy to functionalize. It's a highly aromatic, a highly planar molecule. So you have the problem of solubility problem. So it's very difficult because, as I told, it's a pigment being used in the automotive coating. So it's very difficult to dissolve this molecule. So the focus were how to functionalize, how to start. So everyone know the chemistry that if you go halogens, particularly the bromine in the aromatic moiety, you can do a lot of functionalization in that region. So the bromination itself was difficult. So they were getting mixtures of bromines. So you cannot get a single brominated perlene. So you will get it mono, di, tri, tetra, and it's very difficult to separate. So they were facing much difficulty in getting the pure brominated compounds. So in my postdoc study, I could able to do that bromination selectively. And the monobromination and dibromination, that also in the 1,7 position very selectively using a very simple procedure. Just you're using bromine and dichloromethane, stir it under pressure at room temperature for some 24 hours, and then you'll end up with mono and dibromo. If you want to get the monobromo only, you got to limit the time. If you want to get the whole mixture to convert it into the dibromo, then you leave it for a long time. You will get selectively the dibromo perlene diamide. So these are some of the coupling reactions I have used to prepare different kind of extended conjugated perlene diamides. It's like you can, if you're using the monobromo, depend upon the linker, you can prepare whether you use a symmetrically conjugated or unsymmetrical conjugated molecule using different coupling reactions. Here you can see the Sonaga-Shihara coupling in the first case, and in the second case I used the Stille coupling to prepare different kind of extended conjugated perlene diamides. So you can also use, as I said, if you want to tune a molecule, or if you want to use as a semiconductor or in the light harvesting for the purpose of organic solar cell, you have to attach different donor acceptor moiety, so that only you can separate the exciton. It will help the separation of exciton, so that you got to prepare the different electron donating and accepting moiety with a spacer. So you can tune or you can modify the perlene moiety using different reactions. You can introduce electron donating group or withdrawing group. Then you can attach with different spacer to get different conjugated donor acceptor moieties. So till now we have seen how the chemistry can use. Say we can see as an element how the chemistry is important as an organic molecule in our system. What are the organic molecules present in the environment? How the chemistry is being used, even if you're in the smartphone or in the space or in the pharma industry and so on. So the chemicals, they play a very important role, and they improve our quality of life for sure, because we may have some different opinion that chemicals are spoiling our country, but it depends how we are using. Because earlier days, when you want to make a drug, you have to cut a tree. So you have to derive the drug from the natural resources. You have to extract. So you have to spend a lot of years, you have a lot of human energy. Then you have to cut the tree plants. You have to means the natural resources being wasted to get little bit of drugs. So now using the chemistry, you can able to synthesize the desired drug for particular diseases in a short time without making much impact toward the environment. But even though we are at the same time, the chemicals what we are using, they pose some considerable risks for humans and the environment. So the way we are discarding excessively we are using the chemicals, these kind of habits or these kind of practices, they make some dangerous things to the environment and as well as the human health. So you want to actually avoid the unwanted things and do the desired ones. So there, in the 1990s, the chemist proposed Anastas, the chemist called Anastas. He proposed the 12 principle of green chemistry. If you practice this green chemistry is approach to chemistry that aims to maximize the efficiency of particular reaction with the minimization of hazardous that affects to the human health and the environment. So that you can design a reaction in the using some of the principles which are being listed here. So you can waste prevention, you can prioritize the prevention of waste so that you don't unnecessarily producing the unwanted materials. Okay, then you got to use such a way that you use all the molecules or the atoms which is put in the reaction, they are being all converted in the product. So, and at the same time, you got to select the reagents such a way that they are not hazardous. They should be at least less hazardous. You cannot avoid the hazardous, but at least it should be less hazardous. Then design the safer chemicals and the solvent and other things. You can choose accordingly, which will be the very safer one. And you can use the energy instead of heating. You can use different kind of energy like microwave or solar, this sonication, different kind of energy instead of heating for a long time. And you can use reduce the timings and the different energy sources you can use. And also you can use the renewable feedstocks instead of the raw materials which is being produced from the fossil fuels. You can use the chemicals which are being which can be derived from the feedstocks, so it can be derived from the renewable sources. Then also you can reduce the derivatives, unnecessarily making some derivatives, so that you can plan some efficient method to avoid those derivatives. And then by using the catalyst, so you can minimize the wastage of other reagents. So you can select appropriate catalyst and design degradable material. So you just make a material and leave it which is not degradable. Instead of that, you can design a material which can be degraded easily, and you can avoid the pollution by monitoring the real time what's happening in the reaction. So if you could monitor the reaction at the real time, so that you can avoid some of the hazardous things appearing in the reaction. So, and you can also prevention. If you know the chemist, you can also prevent the accidents which can occur because of the reactions. So these are the principles which can be used to reduce the hazardness and bring the greenness to the chemistry. So, for example, in the synthesis of polycarbonate, we are using the phosgene process. The phosgene is used; it is highly toxic and corrosive chemical, and also you require a lot of dichloromethane for this synthesis of polycarbonate, which is contaminated with chlorine impurity also. So you can avoid or you can replace this chemical synthesis if you go for a solid state synthesis where you use the diphenyl carbonate without phosgene. So here you don't need, because it's a solid state synthesis, you don't need any solvent, and the quality of the carbonate, polycarbonate which is generated is also very good without any chlorine impurity. So here you are using less hazardous chemical. So one of the green chemistry principle you can also you can see one of the example in the synthesis of the manufacture of levulinic acid, which can be derived from the renewable sources like the paper mill sludges or the agricultural residue waste or the municipal waste. You can get the molecule levulinic acid. This use of one of example for renewable feedstock. Why this molecule I'm telling? Because this levulinic acid can be used for synthesis of different basic molecules, which can be used for other manufacture of other chemicals. These are the basic chemicals which can be used for the other chemicals like tetrahydrofuran, 1,4-pentadienol, and caprolactam. So these are the some important molecules which can be manufactured derived from this levulinic acid. So like acrylic acid and succinic acid and 5-nanonon Oh, you can, so that you can generate the chemical from the renewable source. So here I'm telling about the carbon nanoparticle, because accidentally, as you seen the earlier, when they were preparing the Zhu et al., when they were purifying in the carbon nanotube in the 2004, they accidentally found that there is some other molecule which is nanoparticle, which is having fluorescent character, and there's like they call it carbon dots. So in 2016, Sun et al. They synthesized the carbon nanoparticles, the carbon nanotube. We can call it carbon quantum dots. So it's very easy to synthesize. You can use various natural resources because the carbon is present in all natural resources. You can use any tea leaves or fruits, or you can use any resources, any waste material as a carbon source, so that you can synthesize the carbon quantum dots using this methodology like hydrothermal, micro-assisted pyrolysis, or ultrasonification by simple heating or chemical oxidation. So you can easily synthesize the carbon nanotube, carbon quantum dots. So the carbon, the advantage is you can easily manipulate the size of carbon dots. When you go down the size, the color the changes, means the energy, the band gap increases, so that you end up with the different colors, so that you can produce different colors using different material, different size of the quantum dots. And the quantum dots, the inorganic quantum dots, you can use as the cadmium sulfide or cadmium selenide. They're all used as a quantum dots. Here also the same principle. You can, when you go down the size, you are actually you are modifying the band gap, so that the energy gap you are modifying, so you're getting different colors. So one of the recent application, you can see the Samsung TV, they call it as a quantum LED TV, quantum light emitting diode. So you can see the quality of the screen, since it supports with the light emitting diodes, you are having the quantum dots. So you have clarity, much more clarity, and much more colors, the variety of colors you can get from the quantum dots. So this is one of the result. We made the cadmium sulfide quantum dots using the fruit sap. The fruit is called Opuntia Picus indica fruit. Just you extract the sap from the fruit and mix it with as usual with the sodium sulfide and the cadmium chloride, and these organic molecules which are present in the sap. So they may have some flavonoids, alkaloids, or you can have some different organic molecules. So they can function as a capping agent towards the quantum dots, so that they change their being used as a stabilizing agent or as a size reducing agent, and you get the quantum dots which are derived from the renewable sources. Okay, you get the natural sources. And this is another example. We use the different energy, ultrasonic and microwave energy for the synthesis of in the composites. You can say like carbon nanotube, multi-walled carbon nanotube, and the cadmium sulfide quantum dots. The same methodology here. Simply you are mixing the carbon nanotubes along with the cadmium sulfide quantum dots. So we have used these quantum dots as a photocatalytic. In the case of dye degradation, you use the para-rosanilin as a dye. So it's as a catalyst, photocatalyst, which degrades completely under UV radiation, and it's we have also used as a corrosion inhibition towards the zinc plating. So another principle of the green chemistry is atom economy. So the whatever and the atoms present in the starting material, you can use such a way that all converted into product. It's one of the example. The Bailey-Skillman reaction is one of such reaction for the example of atom economic reaction. Here you see that the activated alkene like ethyl methyl ketone or ethyl acrylate. They are used as electron deficient molecule, or you can say activated alkene. It reacts with electrophile aldehyde in presence of a base. Here you can see as a DAPCO, or you can see a phosphine as a base. So the base adds with the activated alkene, the micro addition fashion, then that resulting anion attacks the carbonyl, electron deficient carbonyl carbon. There you can see the proton transfer from the activated alkene to this carbonyl oxygen. Then the base, which is the DAPCO, is being eliminated. Then it goes into cycle again. So here the DAPCO you can use as a catalyst. Okay, maximum the 0.2 equivalence. Okay, it's more than enough to convert the whole reactant into product. So here this the final product is a allyl alcohol. You can see that the whole the atoms present in the starting material, the aldehyde as well as in the activated alkene, they're all being converted into as a product, as a allylic alcohol. So atom economy is without wasting any atom. All the atoms present in the reactants being converted into the product. So also the base is being used. It's not in a quantitative means we are used as a catalyst with 0.2 equivalent. So using this reaction, this Bailey-Skillman reaction, we have made some ligand. First, we are as we have seen in the previous slide, we have used this Bailey-Skillman reaction to get the allylic alcohol. Then you do the acetylation in the second step. Then you use some of the bases. Here we use the amine, the antipyrine as electron donor material, which is reacting with the electron deficient and the Bailey-Skillman attack, and then end up with this ligand. We have used this ligand for the zinc 2+ ion sensing. And here is another example where you can use associate the 12 principle. You can make materials such a way that they go there's a biodegradable. After the usage or after sometimes it should degrade, should be able to degrade itself. So one of the such materials is made from polyhydroxyalkonoids. So the crop, which gets energy and grow, that's a renewable energy. So you can get this fermentation from the sugar solution. They make some kind of polyhydroxyalkonide polymer, alkonoids polymers. They are being used for the plastic product. So they say that it's a biodegradable material. So at the end, it will be converted into carbon dioxide and water. So these are some of the examples how the green chemistry can be used to minimize the wastage which is being generated in our chemistry lab, or when you select some reactions, you can avoid unwanted or the dangerous chemicals and use in the safer way. And also you can plan the reactions in such a way that you use catalyst in appropriate place. You are using energy instead of thermal energy, some efficient energy methods, so that you minimize the reaction timing and so on. With this, I like to say one Tirukural I want to tell you here. Nedungadalum Tannirmai Kundrum Tadun Tellili Tanalga Dahividin. If the cloud which takes the water from the ocean, it has to give back as a water to the ocean. If it didn't give back, even the ocean itself will dry. So we are getting all from the mother nature, whether it's the chemicals or other things, whatever we're getting, we should give back. We should as much, we cannot give back as such what we get from the nature, but as much as possible, we should try to give back in a greener way, so that it gives back again to the next generation. I thank you one and all for listening, and I would like to thank our principal and the DST served for supporting doing some kind of basic research in our department. And I also like to thank our faculty members and research scholars of Chikana Government Arts College, Tirupur, for giving and supporting in all the way. Thank you, one and all.